In today's video, we're checking out the GoPro Hero 10 Black. Just to let you know, this video is not sponsored. I purchased this camera. I'm also an owner of the GoPro Hero 9 and the GoPro Hero 8. So you might say I'm a glutton for punishment when it comes to GoPros, but they serve a particular purpose. I love using these in the car, and I also love using these for vlogging. So we're gonna focus on a vlogging test with this particular camera. I'll be using an external microphone as well, so we'll see just what it's capable of. Now, I found one big flaw with this already that I'm not hearing too many people talk about. Maybe a lot of the people that reviewed these didn't have the prior version. So I'm gonna talk more about that in just a bit, and you can decide whether or not that's a deal breaker for you. The GoPro Hero 10 has a few upgrades over the GoPro Hero 9. One of which is 5.3K at 60 frames per second with a lagless front screen, which is beautiful. And we also can shoot 4K up to 120 frames per second. Now those frame rates will either be 50 or 100 if you set it to PAL, or 60 and 120 in the NTSC region. Another huge advantage to this is it's backwards compatible with all the GoPro Hero 9 accessories, including the media mod that I've got connected to it right now, the GoPro Hero 9 batteries, as well as the Max Lens mod. There's beta firmware at the time of filming this available already. You can download and install that if you have the Max Lens mod, but I don't own that. I'm sure there'll be another update pushed through pretty soon. Having all of this backwards compatibility means you don't need to go out and buy a particular GoPro media mod like you did between the 8 and the 9. So if you've already got a 9 and you've got the batteries and all the accessories, you won't have to go get anything else. The biggest advantage to the front-facing screen is it allows you to frame shots like this on your own. And I can see on the screen, even at a distance of 2.5 meters away, that I'm right in the center of the shot, or near enough, right? So that's pretty cool. If you're a solo content creator, having a flippy screen or a front screen on an action camera is an essential in 2021 or going into 2022. Now, one of the things to take note of with the GoPro is there's no shallow depth of field. Everything is in focus, and it has a pretty good minimum focusing distance. I'm right up close to this sign, and it still looks like it's in sharp focus, while the background is also in sharp focus. The benefit of this on an action camera is you'll never have to worry about autofocus pulsing like you do on other cameras. So having everything in focus might not be the most pleasing to the eye if you've been shooting with a high-end camera, but when you're doing shots like this with an action camera, I would rather have everything in focus than what I want in focus out of focus. Up next, I want to share with you my experience navigating the menu system on the GoPro Hero 10. Let's just say it's far better than the straight out of box experience I had with the GoPro Hero 9, which was far laggier than the 8. The 8 had a great touch user experience and still does. It still feels very fluid to use. The 9 got better over time. The 10 feels as good as the 8. So if you're looking for a lagless touch experience, this will also make a whole lot of sense. Let's talk about my one big gripe with the GoPro Hero 10. And it's not the video quality or anything like that. It does all of that stuff exceptionally well. The front-facing and rear-facing screens are an upgrade over the old one. The touch menu feels great to use, so I don't have a lot of complaints, but my biggest complaint about it is the battery life. The battery life lasts nowhere near as long as the GoPro Hero 9. The reason why this happens is because 5.3K and 4K 120 requires far more processing power, which is going to tax the battery even more. So if you're buying this just to shoot in those higher resolutions and higher frame rates all of the time, bring some extra batteries. Here's a great example of what I was just talking about with the battery life and resolution. So I was on 39% battery after shooting this entire video. I dropped it down to 1080p at 25 frames per second, and now I'm back up to 46%. So depending on your mode will drastically change how much battery life you get out of this camera. If you can live with 1080, you'll get far more recording time than you will in 4K 50 frames per second, for example, or whatever the case may be, right? So resolutions make a huge difference, but again, you're buying this camera because it's an upgrade in resolution over some of the older cameras, and that's one of those things you'll probably want to use sparingly. Another huge benefit to the GoPro Hero 10 is we get 3 different color modes. What you're looking at right now is 4K 25p in the vibrant color mode, which should give me far more saturation than you've seen on the rest of this video, which was shot in the natural profile. And I'll overlay some stuff side by side so you can see the difference. So this will give you a very colorful look, and for vlogging or doing sort of any sort of sports or outdoor stuff, this is a really great mode. I actually really like it. I know some people prefer the flat mode, so let's take a look. And lastly, over to the flat profile, which is designed so you can edit this in post in your video editing suite, or if you want more of a cinematic look, this will give you a much flatter look straight out of camera. Now, interestingly enough, while a lot of people like to grade GoPro footage, you can't push it that much because all the footage is 8-bit instead of 10-bit. Maybe the next GoPro will have 10-bit codecs in there at the expense of a lot of battery life, I'm guessing. But yeah, so if you plan on grading the footage, you can use the flat profile, but don't expect too much out of it. It won't grade as well as something like a Sony FX3 or any 10-bit codec camera. One of my favorite features of any GoPro is the time warp feature. Since this has been introduced, it's a really great thing to have at your disposal, just mixing up your footage and content. So this allows you to go for a long drive, a walk or whatever, and the camera will then speed that footage up on your behalf, and that's what you'll be left with at the end, this really cool fast clip of wherever you went. It's pretty wild. You can also tap on the back LCD screen, and this allows you to go back into real time. So if you're using the time warp, but you want to showcase something in normal time like this, you can just do that by touching the screen, touch it again, and it'll go back into time warp. One of the reasons why I wanted the GoPro Hero 9 when it first came out was for shots like this in the car, because framing the shot is so much easier with something with a front-facing camera than the 8. While the 8 is great for shooting outside of the car because you'll see the back of the screen while you drive or while you're the passenger, doing shots like this on a GoPro Hero 8 was pretty tough, so the 9 made it very easy. As it stands right now, I don't see a huge advantage between the 9 and 10 for this particular situation, because you're seated and as soon as you frame the shot the way that you like it, you're good to go. You hit record and you can go. So I don't really see a massive reason to upgrade to the 10 if you've already got a 9 and you like to sit in the car and talk to the camera. So in that regard, I find it a bit of a tough upgrade. But I think the biggest noticeable differences are those other resolutions, especially when you compare it up against a camera with a far more expensive lens, being the Sony a7C. The difference was quite striking in terms of the sharpness. Now the Sony a7C looks fantastic, and I would have no hesitations, you know, using that camera in any type of vlogging environment or whatever. But for a GoPro to keep up with that in terms of sharpness and color science, and to some extent how well it handled the highlights, man, the GoPro Hero 10's pretty great. So yeah, overall it's a great camera. I think the biggest takeaways for me are that the battery life in those new modes isn't great. Now, as of shooting this, I've now realized the GoPro have new longer life batteries coming out. I don't know if they're available. I didn't see them in the shop at the time of buying my GoPro here, so that might be the solution to those problems I have. So there's a solution there for that, but you know, these are great cameras designed for a very particular use, and if you just want something that's a great run and gun camera that's only overheated once today, given that it's quite a hot day, you can see me still sweating in the car here while the aircon's on, I think these do a really good job. If you plan on not getting the media mod, you'll probably have less overheating issues. There's something about the media mod that makes it work a little bit harder. It could just be that it's got that 3.5mm jack and another enclosure around the camera. But for people who are doing surfing, snowboarding, or any type of action sports where it might be a bit cooler, I doubt you'll have any overheating issues with this, because it survived pretty well on a day like today where it's actually quite hot. So if I look a little red, it's probably because it's far hotter than it probably looks right now. But anyway, great camera. I hope you like this review. Thanks again for watching. Let me know if you have any comments or questions, or if you want to see a shootout between this or any of my other GoPro cameras. Thanks again. Catch you soon. See ya.